Board Chair, oaths
Yes.
of office have been submitted for Mr. Gail Pence.
Okay, thank you. And I'm assuming we will work on oaths of office for our other new board member.
Yes.
Okay. Item 3, I will now turn the meeting over to Attorney Terrell Webb to officiate the election of officers of the MATC District Board.
Thank you and good afternoon to everyone. The election will be held under Wisconsin statutes, Chapter 38, governing the technical college system, Chapter 19, governing general duties of public officials, and MATC District Board Policies 80107, procedures for district board meetings and public hearings. Because we have one new board member with us today, I will briefly review a few procedures for today's election. If there is more than one candidate for a particular position, then each candidate will have the option to take up to 1 minute to introduce themselves and state why they want the position. For the order of elections, we will be proceeding pursuant to policy 80107. The district board shall elect officers in the following order: chairperson, vice chairperson, secretary, and treasurer. I will call for nominations for each position. No second is required for any of the nominations. If we have only a single candidate, the election will be filled by acclamation or unanimous consent. This means there will be no call for a vote and the nominee will be declared elected. Where we have 2 or more candidates that are nominated for the election to an office, we will proceed with voting via secret ballot. If someone is on the phone or virtual, they are to email back their vote. Are there any questions or objections regarding proceeding in this manner for single or multiple candidate elections? Seeing no objections, a majority of votes cast shall be required for election of each officer. If we have ties, those ties will be decided in accordance with board policy A0107. We can now move forward with nominations. First, I'll call for nominations for chairperson.
I would like to nominate Mark Foley.
I was going to do the same thing.
Any other nominations? As we only have one nomination for the position of chairperson, we do not need to take a vote. We will move forward and indicate that board person or board chair, Mark Foley, is declared elected.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Next, we'll move on to vice chairperson. Any nominations?
I nominate Lauren Baker for vice chair.
Any others? Seeing none, as with chairperson Mark Foley, we will move forward by acclamation and declare that that position is elected. Next position. Secretary, any nominations?
I'll nominate Citlali Mendieta Ramos.
Do you accept that nomination? Any other nominations? Wow, this is easy. Moving forward. We declare you elected for secretary.
Mark was, you know.
And our last position is treasurer. Any nominations? Yes.
I nominate Erica Case for treasurer.
Do you accept that?
I do.
Any other nominations? Moving forward, that position is accepted by acclamation. You are elected. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone.
I guess that means I take
Congratulations,
over,
and I now get to turn it over. Yep.
take over the agenda.
Yes.
All right, so the next agenda item is setting or adopting a board meeting schedule for this year, and I'm not sure we're ready to do that, actually. We are uncertain as to when Director Najib is able to be with us. There's something about 4th and 5th Tuesdays that we don't quite understand. The alternative of Wednesday doesn't work for multiple board members. And so if you have not responded to Beth's survey about what works for you, please do that today. And I think we'll have to make a call to Dr. Najib and figure out what's going on there. I don't want this to go on very long, so I may ask for a special meeting once we have all the information so that we can get public notice out about the August meeting and everything else on time. Is that an acceptable way to proceed? Anybody have any objections or concerns about that? No.
And just one question. I know Tuesdays is historically, like for decades here. Is there any hardship on staff if we move the meeting? I mean, I know there's a number of mechanisms that all work towards the board meeting.
I don't know.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Maybe Saturday.
There's also a question about the start time.
Okay.
Again, I think this comes from Dr. Najib that he would prefer to start at 5 because of his clinical hours. That can have repercussions on the back end, particularly when we have longer meetings. So I think we're going to have to discuss that too. Once we have a day, we can decide whether to start earlier or later. I just think that we don't have really good information about what his situation is right now, and he's also not submitted the oath. So we really need him to get on board and let us know what's going on.
But there's no statute that will bound us to keep the Tuesday date, right? It's
No.
just historically been done that way.
We get to set the date and time.
Okay.
Dolly Beard did contact me. They're already looking for the dates going forward because I think they set things up. So if we do a special meeting, like you said, let me know as soon as possible. We can't delay the meeting until mid-August. It's,
Right.
that to be very soon.
Okay. Next agenda item is just information items. The Wisconsin Technical College District Board Association meeting for July is in about a week. I don't have that date with me here. You are all invited to attend. If you have any interest in going, I believe Director Baker will be going. It's my intent to go as well, but we need to get some new blood from our board representation there.
Were you gonna put a link to join the group?
Yeah, Steve is out, so you can have a link yet. We did the tech for them, so that'll be coming.
Yeah, there is always a Zoom component for the main presentations that are done on Friday. And there are only 3 people in the office, but I'm sure they'll get that set up.
Yeah, Steve
Shortly.
had some issue, right? He was out for certain.
Yeah. Do you have the date of the meeting? Is it?
Yeah, the date is the 20th and the 21st.
Yeah.
Where is it?
At
Fox Valley.
Fox Valley.
It's in Appleton.
Right. So the 20th is the day that they have the educational presentations and policy discussions. And the 21st, which is Saturday, is when the board of directors meets. Board of directors of that organization meets to deal with its own issues and priorities.
If people are interested, the session on Friday morning is on understanding data. It's going to be over at the college. And then it will also probably be interesting that we'll get a sort of firsthand legislative report from the whole stuff that just happened around the budget.
Yeah. Beth, if you could just circulate that date and the connectivity information when you get it to everyone on the board. If you're going to attend in person, they need to know that. But if you're just going to attend via Zoom, that's valuable, but they don't need to plan meals and things around you. We also have selection of representatives to associated groups. There are, do you have the list?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. So again, this is a list that I think Beth circulated. We will need a board member to be our liaison to the MATC Foundation, which meets quarterly. The Legislative Task Force is another that meets quarterly. the District Boards Association that we just talked about. I am presently a member of the Board of Directors. We have to designate somebody who's going to be our official representative to the organization, and they are automatically the member of the board of that organization. The District Boards Association also has subcommittees that people can work on without being the official designated board member there. One of them is they call it the Bylaws Committee. It's really a Policies and Procedures Committee. Anytime something is proposed for which there's a question of whether it impacts some existing policy or procedure or bylaw of the organization, they are asked to take a look at it and to weigh in on it. There is an annual awards committee. There's an external partnerships committee, which talks about and exchanges information about getting I was going to say third parties, but it's really our constituents of employers involved with us in developing programming, apprenticeships, and what have you. And internal best practices is things that other boards do or our board does internally in our regular activities that others may be interested in and may learn from. For example, Dr. Martin and I were at the last board meeting, and the association had collected copies of policies that various district boards had adopted. And we looked at that and said, there's some things they're doing that we're not. Maybe we should take a look at that. And that led to our review of the board policies, which we just went through. Found out that some of those things were covered, but in places that were kind of scattered, and we reorganized some things. So there is much there to be done. That the District Boards Association meets quarterly, so any of those activities would be a quarterly meeting. There is also a meeting in August with the executive director, Layla Merrifield, and her staff to set the goals for their lobbying activity. So it's actually 5 meetings a year. So if you haven't returned this, please return it. I'll be in contact with you about your preferences or my asks. You don't give me preferences that cover everything. And I think that's it on today's agenda. Is there any new business? First of all, any questions about anything we just talked about? Yes, sir.
I know that you and I had a conversation before about some like tricky parts of, if you will. And so I wanted to follow up on that conversation as far as the District Boards Association and those meetings.
Yeah, so no secret what we're talking about here. I raised the question actually last year as to whether there would be some negative impact on the District Boards Association's lobbying activities if a member of the state legislature had been involved in developing the policies and the asks. And I'm not saying there is. I just wondered how that might be perceived by members of the opposing party in the state legislature. So I raised the question with Director Mora Omakunde, and I'm not sure what we can do to sort that out, but we're here for you. And if we need some other input, we can get that as well.
I have those same concerns. And the appearance of impropriety is often worse than impropriety itself. Or just as bad, if you will. And so I want to make sure that we have all of those ducks in a row, I guess. I'm not big on shooting ducks, but having all of those things in order. I'll say it that way.
Good.
Wouldn't the other boards have a representative?
Well,
Like
they have an elected representative, but it's not always a member of the state legislature.
Okay.
So in the past, our most recent predecessor was Ashanti Hamilton, who was a member of the Common Council.
Mhm.
I suppose there could be issues like that with any elected representative. It just seems to me that given that the District Boards Association lobbying efforts are at the state legislative level, that it might be more of an issue there than elsewhere. I agree with the comment that was just made. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think there is the potential for negative consequences, regardless of whether there's anything wrong with it at all. And then we just need to be smart about that. Any further discussion about anything?
Do we need any of these things right away? Do we need a representative to the foundation right away? Is there anything, or can all of these kind of drift until our next meeting?
Well, the liaison to the District Boards Association really should be done soon. Their policymaking, their plan for the year is adopted at the meeting in August. I suppose I'll have to look. I don't think there's any problem with you or I just being a representative there, but if it's not somebody who's been officially designated, then that person cannot vote at the Board of Directors meeting. There are no proxies allowed at the Board of Directors level.
So we have some time, but not a lot of time.
Sometime, but not a lot of time on that one. And
Those ones we decide in the next week or so.
yeah, I think that's what we need to aim to do, is to get
Just
this
to
all
make sure
decided.
we're out there.
Yeah, and we need to get our
Right.
meeting date set. Beth, when is the next foundation board meeting?
Well, I'm currently the liaison and I'm on all those invites now, so.
Okay, so when is the next
You
meeting?
like to stay on?
August 24th.
Yes, yes, I would like to stay on.
I mean, I guess
Okay.
that solves that one.
I think the only thing that we need is the board of directors for the W.
Yeah.
Okay. I will get on all of those, but do get me your preferences if you haven't, or get them to Beth if you haven't submitted them already. It's very difficult completing a jigsaw puzzle with no picture and half the parts missing.
That's why we elected, like.
Yeah.
If anybody could do it, Mark, you know.
Yep.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
I-
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.